follow on me. We're marching out into the night. Follow on me. We're standing up against a giant. Follow on me. We might be walking in the fire, but if it's where we're meant to be, then on me.
And I do show that it is 15:13 military time on the Pacific time zone. And the significance of that is, if for those of you that have been on several of these, John 15:13 says, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down their life for their friends. And that's what Mark did. He gave his life to give the gift of life to his teammates, and so many others have given their life as well. And so that's the significance of that time. We want that to stick in people's head when they think of that time and the significance of it. And definitely our theme, on me. Jonathan, I'm sure you said that numerous times as you were out on missions, and you said on me. We think that was probably Mark's final words to his teammates as he went up their stairs, cleared the bottom of the house, and yelled, on me. And they knew what he was saying. He was saying, I got the lead on this. You guys follow me. And as he went up those stairs for the last and final time, gave his life to give that gift of life to his teammates. And that's the significance of this. We're hoping that those of you that are listening, that are on the podcast, will, after you're done, from the different speakers we've had, you'll be inspired and you'll say, on me, and you'll take that lead as well. And Laura, you are a perfect example of doing the on me, and we'll get into your story here a little bit more, but I just want to say welcome, Jonathan and Laura Grant. It's so great to have you guys here. So I'm going to read, I put together a little bit of a bio on you, Laura, and kind of your circumstances, and Jonathan, you as well. There is no how-to book on caring for someone with brain injury once the hospital and rehab facilities are behind you. Laura Grant is the wife of Navy SEAL and TBI survivor John Grant. She attended North Carolina State University and graduated in 2008. She is an Instagram star, and she began with her Pilates-related content. After her husband's accident, her Instagram became a consistent progress update on his condition and her relentless support. She was then featured in Cosmopolitan for her Instagram and continued to increase her following. Jonathan, in March of 2017, you were in a severe car accident which left you in a coma and needing extensive rehabilitation. Laura continues to show her love for you and your loving relationship, her support, and the progress that you continue to make is nothing but miraculous. I've often said, Laura, when we've talked, if people could see the pictures and the videos, Jonathan, of where you were after that car accident. And I know, Laura, it was on, your Instagram, on those videos that I learned about Jonathan, and I reached out right away and, tried to offer some help. And we were eventually able to do that and provide some of the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. But it is a joy to have you guys here today. What a miracle story you guys are. And I love you both to pieces. So welcome.
Thank you for having us. Say thank you.
Thank you.
There is that voice. We know
you're welcome. You're welcome. And Laura, maybe you want to just kind of give an update what it was like in the beginning, where Jonathan was, his medical condition, just so they have a glimpse as we go through the story, and as they look at Jonathan now, they see how far he's come.
Oh, absolutely. He was a passenger in a car accident, and when I got the call, I was told he was unresponsive. And when I got to the hospital, I was told he had a brain injury. He had diffuse axon injury where his whole brain shifted. And the scary part about his injury was the severity of what was showing in the CTs. There was a lot. There was 2 huge bleeds, but the severity of what he was presenting, laying there, and how unresponsive he was the part that didn't make sense and made the doctors believe that he probably wasn't going to make it. They were getting no responses from him, and they intubated him 3 times just to try to get him to breathe. And but later, once he was able to, because for the first because they had to put a bolt in his head to measure the pressure to see if they need to go in and do surgery. But then once he surpassed that part, and his pressure didn't go too high, they were able to do an MRI. And in that MRI, they saw he had shearing in his brain stem, which would make sense as to why he was still so unconscious, right, and in the coma. So he stayed in the coma. He wasn't pronounced out of the coma until 2 months later. So, and then from there, we've, been going, he's been healing every day since. So his injury, really no broken bones, just the diffuse axon injury of the shearing of the whole brain.
Let's go back a little bit. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you guys met, when you got married. Give us a little background there.
Okay, I was born and raised in Raleigh. And John and I actually met when he had become a Navy SEAL, and he came to North Carolina, to Fayetteville, to become a combat medic. And when he arrived here, he got on Match.com. And at the same time, I got on Match.com because I wanted to meet people. And we actually met a few days after he arrived here. And then we dated ever since he was here. So that was almost, I believe, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 2018. So what is that, 12?
Yeah, that'd be 12 years ago if it was 2008.
We've been together for a long time, Dave. So that's how we met. He was born and raised in Chicago, or outside of Chicago, in Indiana, in Chesterton, Indiana. It's about 30 minutes outside of Chicago. And he has 4 brothers and a sister, so a big family. And I just have an older brother. So, but he's a warrior.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So when did you guys get married then?
We got married in 2012.
2012. So, yeah. So, and then deployments, how many deployments did he do?
He did 3 deployments. He went to Yemen and then Iraq twice.
And when was his last deployment?
Oh, good. I'm so bad with dates.
What team was he on?
SEAL Team 7. Or what team were you on?
7.
7, and what platoon?
Echo.
Echo, right.
Echo Platoon, SEAL Team 7. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jonathan, you'll have to check out the Mark A. Lee Training Center.
Woo! Tell us
That's
about
that's the TRADET building. And I know they're in the middle of transitioning, some of the teams down the Strand. So I don't know if it'll still be the TRADET building, but it'll still be the Mark A. Lee Training Center. So you have to check that out. So you got married, and then he did several deployments, and you Pilates, is that something you were doing before that you guys met, or was that something you started? Yeah.
When I was senior in high school, I got certified. So when I went into college, I started teaching right away. And so I was teaching up to when the accident happened. I had been teaching 14 years.
Wow. And I just look back, as I'm sure you do, seeing how much of that, as we've watched your videos, as you worked with Jonathan in the process, and stretching his body, getting it to the place. But let's go back to in the hospital. Tell us the short version of the 3 years since this has happened. This was March 17th, 2017, when he was in the accident. What was the accident? What happened?
The accident, he was a passenger in a car. His buddy was driving. Are you asking like what happened in the accident? Yeah, we don't really know. So they went downtown to eat dinner after working in Fayetteville. So, an hour drive back. And I was teaching Pilates that night, and he called me, or we were actually texting, and he showed me pictures that there was a fire downtown Raleigh. We had this huge fire downtown Raleigh, which is very rare. And so I went to bed, and the next thing I know is I got a call at 2 a.m. in the morning. And it was 2 miles from our home, and the car lost control. And the driver of the car, he just walked away with a concussion. So he did go unconscious, and he doesn't really remember what happened, but John was unconscious at the scene.
Right.
So they kind of did some tumbles and hit a tree.
So tell us about the progression then. After he's come out of a coma, he was in a coma for 2 months, and it did, like you said, there was so many videos and so many times I watched, and it just didn't look like there was a lot of hope for you, Jonathan. And to see you here today, and I've had you send me cards with scripture that you colored in there and signed your name and written "I love you," and just to see the difference just encourages my heart. And so let's let our audience know a little bit more of that story as it went through.
Yes, it's hard to summarize that whole time. It's been a lot. You know, he was doing really well at the beginning. Our biggest holdback was his inability to communicate. So his speech center was very damaged. And as you and I know, that anything that shows on a scan doesn't mean anything. There's so many tools out there, right? And our brain is pretty amazing in how it can repair. But you know, there was little hope. And as he was emerging and not communicating, we weren't able to really know where he was in the healing process, because he couldn't communicate to us what he knew or what he could feel, or you know, what he remembered. So that was really challenging. For the first 2 years, we were in and out of, or we were in rehabs. We went to 3 different rehabs, and we just kept going downhill, spiraling downhill, medication after medication, doctors trying to fix him with the medication. And I just knew that it was, if we gave John the right tools, I mean, his character is he's going to fight, and he's going to fight through it. So that's what I just had to keep advocating. And finally, after a lot of work, I got him home. And then once he got home and was given the energy of love and given the tools on an alternative medicine direction, he started healing. So about at 2-year mark, we started losing the agitation. That's similar to right around when we started the hyperbaric. We know that what's the first and the last breath, or what is the first and last thing we need in life? We need breath, right? Mm-hmm. Breathe, and we breathe. And so we know the importance of the oxygen, especially the oxygen to the brain. And there was times when he was in the hospital that they soon realized that he was desatting at night when he was sleeping. And we know that that's so not helpful with the repair of the brain. So once we started flooding him with oxygen, it was just amazing how much he lit up.
Yeah. And I remember, reaching out in the beginning, and you didn't know me from the man in the moon, and just saying, I know if we can just get him in the chamber, this will help so much. And as you went to your doctors, they just kept saying, no, 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 no. And obviously, we as non-medical professionals, we rely on our doctors. When they're giving us information back, we hope and we trust them that what they're giving us. But if they're not educated in some of these things, then they don't have that. And I know I would call, kind of regularly and check in and just see how he was doing and see what else we could do and how else we could support you. And then you finally were getting advice from different doctors then saying, yes, this would be beneficial. Yes, let's get him in there. And to watch and see the difference that it made. He couldn't walk in the beginning, and when he took his first steps, folks, I would encourage you, go on and look at the videos. There are lots of information out there in videos that Laura has done, and the support that she has given to Jonathan and the love that she has given him. It is such an amazing example, Laura. When I think of you, I think of, Christ says that we're the bride, and you are the bride, but the way that you continued to stay by his side. What gave you that fortitude? What gave you that strength to do that? Most women, when there is that severe of an injury, and they're not given a lot of hope for, rehabilitation, as we've seen in your life, Jonathan. What gave you that fortitude? Why? I know that had to be difficult.
Oh, it was. It's interesting because all throughout my life, I struggled as a child. I fell out of a window at 9 months old, and I had a concussion, and I struggled with, being the norm. I was always the type that my parents had to go the extra mile to give me help, or, just knowing that I just really had, my faith was strong from beginning in life. And I really stood by that, believing anything is possible. And I always felt, and I always asked God, use me as a vessel to share your glory, to bring people to you. That's my purpose here on earth. And I just sat with that. And, when this accident happened, I knew that if I turned everything to God, he was going to guide me through this. And I knew, because I whispered in John's ear, I said, if this is too hard, you can go, don't hold on for me. But if you're going to fight, I'm going to stay right beside you. And I know John, he was always the type that said, if it's my time to kick the bucket, I'll kick it. Just like these guys, they would go over and deploy just like your son, and they would put themselves in that position for our freedom. And John, I knew that if it was too much, or if he knew, like, he wasn't going to fight that transition in life. So I knew if he was going to fight, I had to fight.
Yeah, that's so good. So I noticed on your Stay Strong, Jonathan Grant, it lists a verse up there. Is that kind of your family verse, or was that your verse when you were married?
No, just, I love using verses. Well, there's just a lot of things that, like, he came from a religious background, and, you know, we always, even in our marriage when we had difficult times, we always turned to God and the covenant we made, and trying to turn our eyes back to him, because we're all sinners and we all make mistakes. And, you know, some of the things these guys have seen and dealt with can only but, you know, cause other things mentally. And, you know, we struggled just like every other Navy SEAL couple. And we just had to keep our eyes on God, really, because we knew that we have to have guys that do what these guys do. If we didn't, we wouldn't have our freedom. And so we have to remember that, but we also need to take care of those guys as well. And I'm feeling more respect for them as we're coming out of this, on the other side of his healing, like he's communicating, and we're, you know, working through trauma and PTSD, because with a brain injury, you know, you and I can cope and we can go do things if we had PTSD, but with somebody that's seeing what he has and he can't get up and go do whatever he needs to do to help, you know, cope, it started coming out verbally, and like he was trying to complete memories and just going in these perseverating loops. And as I've been working with him through this with some neuro-emotional technique, my respect for these guys has just skyrocketed. And I just feel so much of a pull to help these guys, because what they have seen and experienced, and the more I know about the brain and how the brain processes these kind of things these guys go through, I just want to, you know, help them as much as I can.
Yeah. And that, you know, we're on that same page, you know, and that's why we started our program, that's the Helping Heroes Heal program, that pays for the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the hormone and vitamin therapy, those natural things that are going to restore their body, not the things that are going to mask the symptoms and not allow them to physically and emotionally and spiritually to go through that healing process that they need to go through. But I just wanted to share that verse that you have on your website, because it's so perfect for all of us, but, you know, especially you guys, I think of you. And it's Ecclesiastes 4:9, and it says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. And I know, Jonathan, there were times, you know, in the beginning of your marriage, you were that one that was the strong one. You were the one that was going off to combat, and you were defending me. You were defending everyone that's listening. You were defending your wife so that the enemy wouldn't come over here and do harm to us. And, you know, then on March 17th, when you were in that accident, you know, then the table turned and your wife became the one that was there to help you and get you to the place that you are today, that, you know, you can communicate. Tell us about the first kiss, when he was able to kiss you again after the accident. How long was that?
Well, he was able to, well, he didn't really like kiss me back. As soon as they trached him, because, you know, he had so many tubes in him, as soon as they trached him, I was like all over him. I was like kissing him all over. But when he first started like kissing me back, because that was reflexes, everything had to turn back on. It was so special. When he stood up and kissed me, that was so sweet, because I didn't even like ask him to start kissing me on my neck. And I was like, there's my husband, he's back.
And how long was that?
Maybe 2.
It was a while.
Yeah, it's been a process. Our first 2 years were dark, like really dark. Like, it was, you know, I just tell people, just hold on. You know, when he was first coming out of his coma, he kept showing me number 3, and I, you know, I'm like, okay, the Trinity maybe, or what's going on? And I just kept hearing God say it's going to take 3 years, because with a brain injury, sometimes we all just want the quick fix. But sometimes we just need to be patient, just like what we're going through right now. Like, it is horrible and it is dark for a lot of people, and like my heart breaks for them. But on the other side, there's a purpose and a reason for it all.
Yeah. So what were the things in that process? Because I know this had to be so difficult for you, not just emotionally, you know, physically. when you finally got to the place where you could bring him home and you're doing all the lifting and you're doing the stretching, basically you were his therapist at home, doing a lot of that stretching and getting him and trying to move him and maneuver a wheelchair for a house that wasn't built for a wheelchair. Tell us about some of those struggles, and then what did you do? What was your strength to get through in that time? You shared about your faith and how important that was, but there's got to be practical things that you do as well. I mean, we can all say, I'm going to get better, and the brain processes that, but you don't just sit there and then expect it all to evolve around you. What'd you do?
Right. Well, first off, I was always told, I was always given fear. People gave me so much fear, and I kept on trying to go back to love, fear or love, we can live in fear or love. And so many people said, you're not gonna be able to take him home. You're not gonna be able to handle him. You're not able to transfer him. You can't, like, all this, like, he's gonna fall or he's gonna get worse. And, people are just feeding this fear after fear. And I just kept saying, love is gonna be the answer. But it's amazing. Some of the times that I had to move him, because he used to be dead weight. He didn't help me at all. I don't know where my strength came from, really, honestly. It was all God, because there was moments I can just laugh and remember, like, I don't know how he didn't fall. Like, I had angels around me all the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've been doing I cared for him every single day since the accident, but one day when I got sick. So I've done all of his ADLs every single day, and I actually enjoy it. And we enjoy those moments together. And we've created a bond that, because of the inability to communicate like you and I can right now, we communicate on our own level because we have sat and been there with each other, if that makes sense. Rather than trying to be busy and going every way, we've actually found a way to communicate without having to actually verbalize it to each other. So it's been a special journey for us in a relationship, and we have just bonded more and more. I just feel like our souls have even just, like, grown together as one more and more. It's been beautiful. But for myself, what I do is I just, I give myself grace. At first I wanted to fix. I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? What can I do? But I had to give myself some grace and realize it was his process as well as mine, and that I can't fix it. And then I had to just hand it and surrender over to God, because the more I tried to control it, the more it was working against me. And that was kind of my biggest lesson. So doing my own work, as far as a lot of energy healing and just seeing different things in a different picture of just, surrendering and letting go and being present and being in the now. That was kind of my biggest thing. And I try to find time every day to get outside and go for a run and just get some fresh air and just, listen to music or journal or, just kind of check back in with myself. But I can't say that I'm always perfect. Like right now we have not gone anywhere just because he is vulnerable. And I'm sure I look tired. I'm just like, oh boy, you just wear me out sometimes. And he's just so cute. I'm so blessed, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Like he wakes up in the morning, he's ready to go. He's like, let's walk Kaya. Let's walk Kaya. And I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 years ago, I would have died for you to be able to do that.
Yeah. You're like, oh no, honey, not right now.
He'll sit down all day long. He just keeps going and going, which it's incredible. It is incredible. All the doctors looking at his scans, like at this point, they said there would be no way that he would be where he is today. Yeah.
And how long was it? I know you said you're not good with time, and I keep asking you these time questions. But I mean, he was, even when you brought him home, he was in bed most of the time until when?
Hyperbaric. That's when.
Yeah.
2 weeks after hyperbaric, because we did the functional neurology stuff worked wonderful, but it was like something about getting oxygen to the full brain was, I cannot say enough about oxygen. When you're not getting, and even in the healthcare, they would say 93 to 94, 95% is good. No, it needs to be like 97, 98 for full capacity of
recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in bed 23 hours, I would say, a day. He could not, he had a lot of, you got to think, he was in bed for so long, his body hurt. And I do believe as we started going to hyperbaric, it's like the pain started drifting away. And then he wanted to be up in his chair. And now he never wants to be in bed. Like, I have to force him in bed. So it was around the 2-year mark.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so we've just hit the 3-year mark in March, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So it is just so inspiring. And again, folks, please check out the videos. That it is just so inspirational and so amazing. I mean, it's a love story like, none I've ever seen. And it just has been a gift and a blessing to know both of you. And Jonathan, to see, the change in your life, to see the healing that's taken place, to see, I know there was times that the aggression, was a tough thing for you to deal with, Laura. And, we've seen that subside as well when he started doing the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And I know it was a fight for you to even try to get him into the car, to get him there, to get the treatments. And then we started to see, you give me a report, a week later or however long it was, and say, man, he didn't fight me today. And now he's saying, I want to go. And, so it's been exciting to be a little part of that and watch what God continues to do in your lives. And I love it when you send me cards, Jonathan, and I open them, and there's very special. I still have them. I save them, and they're in my kitchen in different places. Just a reminder. And, we never know what life is going to give to us. And I think in the midst of COVID-19, that's one of the things, and you mentioned that earlier, Laura, the fear aspect. You were told, nope, you can't, it won't, nope, not going to happen. He's not going to survive. He won't make it. He'll be a vegetable. Fear, 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 fear. And you took that to an example where you said, no, those are lies. I'm not going to believe that. We are going to make a difference. I'm not going to focus on what I can't control here. I'm going to focus on those things with Jonathan that I can control, where I can help, where I can make a difference. And for no matter what we're dealing with in the midst of COVID-19, whether we're in the military, out of the military, wherever we are in life, so many people have, potentially lost their businesses. They weren't able to survive and make it through this. Many people have loved ones that they have lost in the midst of this, and they're grieving those losses. We've got some that aren't sure how they're going to feed their families, but the fear is not going to be the answer to those things. And so we have to have peace, and as you and I know, that peace comes from Christ. He's that ultimate peace that gives us the strength to be able to do what we do. But then to focus on those things that we can't control. We can't control coronavirus. We can't control when our government opens back up. But we can control other things in our life. And you mentioned the exercise piece of, for you, obviously being a Pilates instructor, that wasn't anything you had to think about too much. You enjoyed that. That was something that for you was your relaxing time getaway. Mine's more of a discipline. I know that if I don't do these things, my body's going to pay for it. I'm not going to be strong. I'm not going to be healthy, but the exercise is such an important piece of it. My challenge has been to everyone to be in the Word 5 minutes a day. That's where my strength comes from. Lots of times people say, you're such a strong woman. I'm like, no, I'm a weak woman with a strong God. And he's the one that gives me that glory strength to do, what I do every day. And I just think of Mark's letter. He starts that letter with, some men seek glory, others find it stumbling on them, not expecting it to find them. And just, what the lives that continue to be changed around the world in such a crazy way. I miss Mark every day. I went out today, and we're one of the nonprofit partners for Carry the Load this year, and Memorial Day is coming up, and of course everything's been canceled, all our relays that we had, and this year we're actually one of the beneficiaries. So again, we were looking forward to that funding to come in to continue our programs. And they sent signs, who are you carrying, yard signs, and I went out and took mine out today. Obviously on the back there's a blank place that's, who are you carrying, that's supposed to challenge people. Well, I put Mark's picture in there, and I was putting him in the ground and got a little teary-eyed. It'll be 14 years in August, but there's still those times, where I miss Mark. I wish he was here. I could give him a hug, but that's selfish for me. When, Jonathan, when you went over to combat, you were willing to give your life. You weren't selfish. You didn't say, no, I got a beautiful wife back home. I think I'll stick this one out, because no, you said, send me. And if I'm required to pay up to the price of my life, then that's the cost of our freedom. But to see, so it would be selfish for me to have Mark back here, but to see the impact that he's still making around the world and the lives that have been changed in such an amazing way, is that selfless attitude that Mark, had that day when he stood up in the line of fire to give his life. And so we're excited to have you here with us today. And thank you for being here and sharing your time. We would love to support you. What things can we do? Where can people follow you? Where can they watch those videos?
Yes, I post most of it on Instagram at Laura B. Pilates on Instagram, and I just try to educate. I just, like yourself, I feel like, through these struggles, and as much as like, losing your son, but the gift that he's given you to help others, that's, the same as in our suffering, in our darkness and in pain. I know that for John, if he could help one other person, then it would be all worth it. So, I try to educate people on alternative medicine and just alternative ideas, and just to think for yourself and ask questions. John always taught me if the answer is no, it's closer to a yes. And just to ask, and, don't give up. And when people are, especially in the healthcare system, if you're feeling like they're giving you no hope, or they're just saying it's not possible, then just ask somebody else, because what you want a team that's going to see hope and that want to fight for you. And, we can't take away the day that we're supposed to be with the Lord, but, we can listen to him and feel if in our gut, if we're guided to share on, then we should help as much as we can.
Yeah.
I just share the story on Laura B. Pilates, and that's, I just feel like that's our calling, is just to share how far John's come, and he continues to heal every day, and that, you don't have to give up. Yeah.
That's so good. I want to read, Laura, what I found this on, and I don't remember if it was your Johnny B. Strong page or your Pilates page, but you write in there, "This is not our story to tell. It is a story from God through us. We are the vessels. If you don't read past this sentence, take this message. Love is always the answer. God is love." And I'll tell you what, you have been an amazing example of selfless love for your husband. And Jonathan, I love you to pieces. Thank you for all the years that you served and dedicated your life to defending me and my freedoms. Thank you that you continue to be a fighter, that you don't quit, that you don't give up. And I love you both to pieces. So thank you so very much. If you guys have got time,
Yes.
We'd love for you to stick around and do a little question and answer time.
Got it.
All right, Mr. Ryan, how are you doing today?
What's up, friends?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thank you all for joining us today. It's been quite a journey with Debbie and I over the last, did you say 17? Day 17 or 18?
Today's 18.
Woo,
I think,
18.
right? Tomorrow's
18.
Friday, right?
Yeah, 20 in a
Yeah.
row. So we're so thrilled to have you guys, and what a great story. John, thank you for your service, brother. Truly am grateful for your time and for this journey. I've got a couple questions. This one's got several tiers. So I'll just read it off. You kind of pick and choose how you want to navigate through it. How have you both seen God's faithfulness most during this journey? How has your relationship with God grown through all of this? And how did you get through, let's call it, your darkest moments?
Okay, first question was, say it again.
How have you both seen God's faithfulness most during this journey?
Mm-hmm. I believe that through this journey, faithfulness is that, there was many times that I've gotten insight and pushed to ask questions. And a lot of times I was pushed down by, doctors or others, but it's like listening to that voice. He was always right. So it's like, he always gave me those winks, like, yes, I've got this, right? So for that, I believe that just in our own miracles, that he speaks every day to us. Second question.
That's awesome. How has your relationship with God grown through all of this?
So much.
Good questions.
It's really great. I think our relationship has grown with him because in a place like this, especially for myself, I can't talk to my husband like I normally could, or ask him questions, or, you know, make choices together, that my relationship with God has become, you know, like my foundation that John would have given me before. Even though God is in the middle of our relationship, God is center stage for us, because we're in a place of stillness and silence, and in that place, and opening our hearts and being willing to listen and willing to be guided, that is where he's most present. Yeah.
All right, here's the tough one. So how did you get through, let's call it, the darkest moments?
Those were dark.
Right.
Those, he doesn't remember a thing. The darkest moments were those times that I just like dropped to my knees and surrendered, and I had to let go. It was the letting go of controlling and trying to figure it out. And then as soon as I did that, the energy shifted and everything would change. I found typically in those darkest moments was always when a big leap forward what we were about to take. You know, sometimes in the valleys, then we get to the top of the mountain. So it was staying and believing in those times of darkness that we were going to make it to the top.
That's good. I'm going to throw one at you here, only because I've kind of been watching through COVID-19, and that's kind of the premise of why we created this, is to lift and inspire people from our military servicemen and women in this time. But there's a lot of separation going on already in marriages. And what happens in times like these, when finances become issues, jobs become issues, uncertainty becomes, you know, definitely fearful. People tend to pull apart. I'd like to ask if you have any, I don't know if you want to call them challenges, Debbie, or what you would, you know, like to inspire our listeners and potential future listeners with, how to hold on and how to battle like you've battled, because I can see the fruits of all the work that you guys are putting in together, and it's amazing.
Right. Let's see. It's interesting because, you know, the things that would bother me before that would pull us apart don't bother me at all now.
Yeah.
And I think it's sometimes in those times of God has to strip us from everything, right? Everything that we find as our foundation. And that, just like with what everyone's having to do, pulling away from the people that they idle, they can't go their jobs, or just running around and being busy. Sometimes stripping us away from those things allows us to ground ourselves back into what is important. And I would inspire, ask, or challenge other people that in that time that you feel like you're pulling further apart, what are you really trying to run from? Rather run together and run towards God and start there, because typically it's like you're running from something that you don't want to face.
So good. So good. Yeah. Big fan of that one. Debbie, I'll take it back over to you. Thank you guys again. Laura, John, it's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan, Jonathan, Laura. Thank you so much. We love you guys. Folks that are listening, if you're struggling with post-traumatic stress, if you're in our military and you're struggling with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, please know we are here. We are ready to help you. And Jonathan is just one of our, you know, miracle of what the changes that can be made. And we need to step up. Our men and women who have gone in the combat zone and were willing to give their lives for us, they need our help to physically restore their health. And so please know, if you're one of those, please reach out to us, americasmightywarriors.org. And for those of you that have donated, that have helped, here's an example of what your money's doing, the difference that you are making in the lives of our veterans. So thank you. God bless you. I am so grateful for all of you. Thank you, guys. I wish, you know, you feel like when these are done, you need to hug, because people get so vulnerable and share so deeply. But unfortunately, COVID-19, we can't. And I just want you guys to know I'm sending you a huge hug. I love you to pieces. I look forward to that day. I feel like I know you well, but we've never actually physically met. So I look forward to that day when I can come and give you those hugs in person. But thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. We love you to pieces.
Thank you so much for having us.
You bet. And folks, this has been another example of on me. You know, Laura stepped over when she needed to and said on me, and there were times physically she took the weight of Jonathan and carried him. And we don't have a better example than we do of Christ, who hung on the cross and said, put all the sins of the world on me. I will take all of their sin. I will carry all of that. And he made that sacrifice so that if we believed, we could spend an eternity with him. And I'm looking forward to Laura, Jonathan, Travis, Ryan, your families that are believers, those listening, to spending an eternity with you and getting to embrace those that have gone before us and kneel at our Savior's face and just thank him for making this all possible. So on me, take that charge and go forward and make a difference in your world. Join us tomorrow for podcast number 19. We do have someone who stepped up and is donating, taking all of our videos and taking out the long lead time, putting a little, introduction and an ending on there. And we're looking forward to having those on YouTube channel. So thank you so much. God bless everybody.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
When fear flashes its teeth like a lion, when evil roars and walls begin to shake, there's a strength that's not my own. There's a fire in my bones. He is with me and his hand is ever on me. Follow on me. We're marching out into the night. Follow on me. We're standing up against a giant. Follow on me. We might be walking in the fire, but if it's where we're meant to be, then on